What's up, boys? Ron from Never Lucky. Thank you guys for being here. I truly, genuinely appreciate it. I want to talk about some of the players I think are going to pop off rest of the season, especially the fantasy playoffs. Taking my shot on these guys. Maybe some of them have thin depth charts, or maybe injuries ahead of them. Maybe they're just rookies that are going to get more work moving forward. This happens every single season, man. There are these random rookies or players that they get thrown into a full-time role. They pop off. They win fantasy football championships. Last season, we had Jalen McMillan from weeks pretty much 14 and on, 19, 16, 14, 20, and 16 fantasy points. He was pretty much the only guy that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had. He was scoring touchdowns pretty much every single week. Xavier Worthy also from week 15 through 17, pretty much only during the fantasy playoffs, 16, 17, 18 fantasy points. He was winning people leagues left and right. Amir Abdullah, guys. Amir Abdullah from weeks 15 to 17, all 3 weeks, 16, 17, and 16 fantasy points. Can you imagine losing in the fantasy playoffs to fucking 31-year-old Amir Abdullah on the Raiders, too? The Raiders were bad. I mean, the Raiders are always bad. I'm not sure I'd be playing fantasy football anymore. Let's try to find this year's Amir Abdullah or Jerick McKinnon or, a bunch of other names. I want to look at the obscure names, right? I'm not going to talk about like the league winning, top 50 players. I'm trying to go outside of that and look for the guys who maybe you can find on waiver wires. Maybe they're, on the end of your bench, you could probably see. And we start here with Devin Neal, guys. Alvin Kamara sprained his PCL last week. Devin Neal stepped into pretty much a full-time role. Now, Alvin Kamara might be out for 1 to 4 weeks. We just don't really know when Kamara's going to be back. Now, if he hits that 4 week, like the higher end of the range, he's going to be back in week 16, week 17. So that might kind of ruin it. But Devin Neal, he stepped into a full-time role, as I mentioned, similar to Amir Abdullah. He's on a team that can't really run the ball for shit, and we're hoping he can be a reception PPR scam. So he stepped into that role. 74% snap rate, 69% route rate, and he had 7 targets, guys. So he's a rookie running back. He's got some juice. Kendry Miller is obviously injured. He stepped in for an injured player, man. We've seen this before. This is one of those things where the Saints are just a bad team. They're kind of really playing for nothing. And, they want to see what they have in this young guy that they just drafted. He's got some juice. He's got a pass catching profile. He's actually a pretty decent prospect as well. So, but the thing that I do want to hone in on, and the reason I think he's going to be a playoff stud, is just their schedule, man. He's got Carolina, Jets, and Tennessee. And Carolina's the 22nd worst in rushing yards allowed. Jets are 23rd worst in rushing yards allowed. And Tennessee is 25th worst in rushing yards allowed. So they're all bottom 10. He's one of my bets at the running back position. I think he's going to be one of those weird names where he's just on fantasy championships. He's on fantasy championship rosters. People are winning leagues with him because, you picked him up off of waivers. You can throw him at like your second flex at the end of your team. And I think he's going to be pretty good, man. He's got a really nice schedule. He has the pass catching. So even if those matchups don't turn out to be as good as we think, and they're getting stopped on the run, we want the receptions, man. Amir Abdullah, as you guys saw, he was doing a lot of his damage as a receiver. And then now we move on to Trey Benson, man, who's actually better when James Conner was playing. Number 1, he was actually playing. Benson was actually in the game. Number 2, he was awesome on a per touch basis. He was absolutely phenomenal. He had like 8 yards per carry, then almost 5, then 4.2, then 4.38 in that last game when he actually was starting, or kind of, he was like splitting the backfield. 8 for 35, 5 for 19. So he had 5 targets there. That's kind of like a snapshot of what Trey Benson can be. He could be like a 13 to 17 touch type of dude. And I just want to draw your guys' attention to the fact that the Cardinals are 5th in plays per game, 2nd best in time between plays, meaning they play fast, man. This offense wants to go. It doesn't really matter who the starter is. This backfield just yields fantasy points, bro. Look, man, Bam Knight, he was startable, dude. At the end of the day, D. Mercado, startable. James Conner, obviously like a top 12 guy. Benson will be great, dude. I think this guy's going to come back, step into a full-time role. They're going to be like, all right, Bam Knight, thank you for your services, but you're literally just a guy. You can hit the fucking showers, hit the practice squad. D. Mercado, I mean, I don't know what's his deal. He's injured. He's also not that good. I think Benson could find himself in a massive workload rest of the season. And we got to talk about the fantasy schedule like we always do. Houston, 11th against RBs, not great in that first week. But then we got Atlanta, 29th against running backs. This is fantasy points allowed. Cincinnati, 32nd against running backs. So it is a juicy schedule those second 2 weeks, right? Atlanta and Cincinnati. I think Trey Benson, here's the thing, man. He could have came back in week 10. That was when he was officially able to come back off of IR. And they babied him, dude. They babied this man. It's now week 13, and he should be back this week. And I think he's going to be great rest of the season, man. At the end of the day, the Cardinals they yield fantasy production for running backs. So Trey Benson is another one of those sneaky players where he's fully healthy. He's going to step into a big-time role. I think he's going to be really great for us. Now I move on to my fucking boy. I've been talking about Chimere Dike for a while now. In week 7 and 8, when Calvin Ridley had that injury, Dike played 87+% of the snaps. He had 15 and 13 fantasy points, probably more in full point PPR. And then Calvin Ridley comes back in week 11. Unfortunately, our boy Dike went back down to 27% routes. He did get a concussion scare and a chest contusion. It's possible he would have played more than that, but he didn't really do shit, right? So people were kind of down on him. We were dropping him. Ridley then comes back. and breaks his foot instantly, right? Like, he's out for the season now. Manor was banged up last week as well. Dike stepped into a full-time role again, man. 80% of the snaps, and he performed, dude. If anybody had the fucking nuts to start this man, 18 or 19 fantasy points. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 on special teams. 80% of the snaps, 7 targets, 5 for 44, and another touchdown. It was a late touchdown, like at the end of the game. So I wouldn't be too excited here, but this man currently leads the NFL in all-purpose yards. He's going to break Darren Sproles' record for all-purpose yards. So he's on pace to do it. If they continue using him as a punt returner, kickoff returner, I think he's going to hit it, because he pretty much busts like every run back for like a good little chunk, and he has that chance to house one any given day. I just want to say, dude, he's their best wide receiver. Like, fuck Manor when he comes back. I mean, not fuck him, but like, you know, when he comes back, he's going to be irrelevant. In my opinion, he's still kind of a possession type receiver. He can still get a little bit of volume, but it's this man Dike, dude. 4.3, 4.40. He ran a 4.3 for 40. That's the third best out of all the wide receivers in this draft class. So he's got speed, dude. We've seen it on full display. And in the playoffs, San Francisco in week 15, 31st worst in pass yards allowed. Kansas City, 7th best in pass yards allowed, but Dike plays out of the slot. So that could be actually the one place where they can beat the Chiefs. And then New Orleans, 23rd worst in EPA per pass allowed. So those are a couple different stats trying to paint the picture that they're decent matchups. The San Francisco one is really good if you're, you know, if you don't have a bye week and you're looking for like a flyer. I love Dike, dude. I think he's going to be really good down the stretch, not just in the fantasy playoffs. I do think he's going to be somebody that I'm going to probably be starting every week here on out. And I'm going to win my fucking toilet bowl, dude. That toilet bowl championship, that crown is fucking mine, dude. Now let's talk about Mike Evans, guys. We forgot about Drake. We forgot about Mike Evans, man. He's been out since week 3. In his first 3 weeks, he had 8, 11, and 8 targets and really underperforming, right? It was looking bad. He was averaging like 50 yards per game. You know, at the time, we're like, damn, it might be over, might be Jover for him. But now when we look back at the matchups, those are actually tough matchups, man. So it's kind of understandable why he struggled. You know, it was like the beginning of the season. He is a little bit older. The Bucs have been struggling, man. Emeka Egbuka has really fizzled out, dude, from week 6 to 12. So in the past, 7 weeks, he has one game over 8 fantasy points. So this dude is struggling. Egbuka, I think, has been figured out by defenses. He never really was the best separator. I know his separation stats early in the season were really bad. And a lot of people on Twitter were saying that, dude, he just can't separate, but he's just getting big plays, big touchdowns at the moment. I don't know. It's weird. Separation stats are weird because it looked like he was getting open on those deep down the field touchdown bombs. So I don't know. I guess on a per touch basis, on a per route basis, he wasn't separating super well. He would just get open every now and then, maybe a defensive lapse. But nevertheless, man, Chris Godwin has one good leg, right? And believe me, that is his good leg. Tez Johnson, he's pretty raw. You know, he's a big play guy, but he's not a high volume guy. Jalen McMillan literally has like a broken neck, right? So I think Mike Evans, if he can just come back by week 15, they get Atlanta right away, 28th worst against wide receivers the last 4 weeks. So they've been really struggling. Carolina, they're 7th best against wide receivers the last 4 weeks, but we know Carolina is one of those weird teams where you can kind of beat up on them. Their offense kind of struggles. It's a divisional game. I think that's one where even though they're 7th best, I still think Mike Evans can get the better of whoever is guarding him, maybe Torn, I don't know. And then Miami in that last week, they're 16th best against wide receivers the last 4 weeks, but we know Miami's defense has really struggled at some points in the season, so they've just been playing better at the moment, maybe inspired football, I don't know. But those are 3 decent matchups, but the thing is, I think this team is starving for a Mike Evans. I think they really need a Mike Evans back, man, because he offers so much. And by then, I do think Baker Mayfield will be healthy. So this is a team that they're going to be playing for a playoff spot. I think by this point in the season, they're going to really, and their defense is just getting body bagged, dude. It's forcing them into a lot of shootouts, high scoring games. So I love Mike Evans. If he's on a waiver wire for some reason, I'm picking this man up. If you have him, stay put, keep him, because I do think he's going to help us. Next, we got to talk about some tight ends, man. The engine of the Jaguars offense is not Travis Etienne. It's definitely not Brian Thomas and his stone hands. It's not newcomer Jacoby Myers, who's been here for like 7 minutes and he already looks better than Stone Hands Thomas. It's Brenton Strange, man. What if I said it were Brenton Strange? He caught all 5 targets, 93 yards, led the team in yardage last game. He was a top 5 tight end in his first game back. He had like 13 fantasy points. So 5+ targets in each of his most recent 4 completed games. So we have this stat here from Josh Norris. In 4 of the 5 games Brenton Strange has played from start to finish, 4 for 59, 6 for 61, 6 for 45, 5 for 93. Leading receiver for the Jaguars in 3 of those 4 games. He's critical. He's absolutely critical. The Jags were 4-1 with him. They were 3-2 without him. So slightly worse without him. They were tougher matchups, to be fair, but he has a top 10 easiest rest of season schedule. Listen, man, Brian Thomas is going to be back probably this week, but definitely by the playoffs, I would imagine by the fantasy playoffs. And that gives them a really good option to get them into 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations, because we know that this man's going to drop every pass. And that's going to give Brenton Strange a little bit more juice. 3rd down and long, 2nd down and long. They're not going to be running the ball. It's going to be Brenton Strange on those short passes. That's obviously a joke. I just like this man as a talent. I think he's really important to the team. And we see that he's like a vital part of this Trevor Lawrence like route tree, right? Like he's like his first read option quite often. So if you have him, keep him, pick him up if you don't have him. Next player is Darren Waller, guys. You might have forgot about him as well. Practice window opened up this week. He's been on IR for a while. In the 3 games he played this season, 10 receptions for 117 yards and 4 fucking touchdowns. Listen, I was saying this all along. If he comes back, he's going to be great. But how long will he be back? Like, even when he was in the midst of his pop-off, I was like, yeah, well, one of these games, he's just going to get injured, right? And he did. Now, the Miami Dolphins are starving for any type of pass-catching help, right? They don't have wide receivers outside of Jalen Waddle. They're rolling out Jalen Waddle and a bunch of dudes with day jobs. It's like Malik Washington, Russell Westbrook, Akine. I think Robbie Chosen is on the team. Fucking Meta World Peace is on the team. Like, those dudes are out there getting reps. They need Darren Waller back because he was super good for them when he was here. And this is the playoff schedule. Pittsburgh, 27th in against tight ends. That's fantasy points allowed. Cincinnati, 32nd. I mean, circle that fucking game, right? Hunter Henry just had like 30 fantasy points against them. And then Tampa Bay, 11th against tight ends. So he's going to come back. He's immediately going to be second in the receiving pecking order. He will overtake Meta World Peace, Russell Westbrook, Malik Washington, fucking whatever other Robbie Chosen, whatever other names they have of dudes that are just not doing anything for them. They desperately need Darren Waller. Make sure you guys pick him up. I just think there are no tight ends with like better schedules. And, you know, based on what he was able to do, it was a pec injury. So it's not a lower body injury. It's not something where it's maybe he's probably going to be hampered where he can't run as well. So I think he's just going to come back and immediately take back that role that he had. All right, we end this list with Jaxson Dart, guys. He's the quarterback that I think is going to be on the most fantasy football championship rosters. Last year, it was Jaden Daniels. He had like 30 plus fantasy points in every game. This season, I think it's going to be Jaxson Dart, guys. Look at the game log of what he's been able to do. He has 1 game under 19 fantasy points. It was 17, right? That's his floor. So bye week in week 14 is a little bit unfortunate, but in the playoffs, he comes back and they play against Washington right away, 29th against quarterbacks, Minnesota 10th, and Vegas are 16th. So the Minnesota one's not great, but we've seen what this dude has done against good defenses, right? Week 6 to 8, he went up against Philly, Denver, Philly again. He had 23, 29, and 19 fantasy points in those games. Those are like the 3 best defenses against quarterbacks. He is a cheat code, guys. He is somebody where it doesn't matter how good the defense is. He's going to get rushing touchdowns, rushing yardage. He's not going to tone down the rushing yards and the rushing. He might slide more, but I just think it's going to be wheels up for him. Dude, I saw a report that they said they want him to not run as much. It's a new regime now because Brian Dable got fired. It's now, I believe, Kafka or something like that. And he said he wants Dart to, you know, slide more, be a little bit more careful, because his career is in jeopardy, all that kind of stuff. So that does it for the video, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time. I genuinely appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think about these picks, man. I think every season there's these random rookies and, like, you know, sometimes even older players like an Amir Abdullah who just, you know, step into a massive role because everybody's injured by this point in the season. There's probably guys that are going to show up the next couple of weeks that, you know, find themselves in a really good situation. Maybe a stud running back's going to get injured or something. So make sure you guys subscribe, dude. Subscribe. We'll talk about this. We'll do this video every week. I think I'll like switch it up of who I think it's panning out to be. So make sure you guys subscribe, you know, like the video if you want to catch more of this stuff, and join the Discord, man. We're talking ball in there every day. It's a dope little community. We got like less than 100 people, but it's sharp, man. There's a lot of sharp people. We're helping each other with sit starts, trade advice, waiver wire, all that cool stuff. Just a bunch of cool dudes. So make sure you guys join that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.